L-R.
If spending money like water was the answer to our country's problems, we would have no problems now.
You're listening to the Modern Comment Show with your host, Amy Curtis, here on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Modern Comments Radio here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. I am Amy Curtis, your host, and I want to welcome you to the program. If you want to get involved with the program, you can do that a couple of ways. You can go to vigilantlibertyradio.us/chat. Pull up the window with the chat stream. You can stream the player through there and type in a name, password, log in and join us in the chat. Or you can send me a tweet on Twitter to @moderncomments, and I will try to work your insights and thoughts and remarks into the program. This evening, I'd love to welcome back to the show VLR regular and one of my favorite movie and television gurus, Chris, the Cranky T-Rex. How are you, Chris?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being back on. I'm glad we get to do something that is not politics, because mentally I just can't handle politics anymore tonight. So I'm done.
Ya.
We're going to talk something fun. Maybe have to get a little bit into it if we talk about Ghostbusters, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And yeah, so it's going to be good.
I think we can figure out the thing with Ghostbusters where we just all sit there and go, nah, we don't want to see it.
Yeah, if you haven't, that's Taylor, my producer, who you can find on Twitter at iDesertBlog. Good evening, Taylor. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Just
excellent.
Chilling.
Chilling
Well,
is good.
Apparently, Dan Aykroyd thinks it's great because he just made a comment about that this afternoon. So the Aykroyd family is delighted by this inheritance of the Ghostbusters torch by these magnificent women in comedy.
Okay, well, if you're wondering what we are talking about, they are going to release a Ghostbusters film where the leads are going to be women. And we just were talking about this off air, and I'm going to blank out on their names. Kristen Wiig,
Kate McKinnon, Melissa McCarthy, and Leslie Jones.
And Leslie Jones are going to be sort of the helm. They're going to take over the roles played by Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Bill Murray, and the character's name was Winston, and I'm really stupid that I'm blanking out on the actor's name.
Ernie Hudson.
Ernie Hudson, thank you, yes. So they're going to take over those roles, and they're going to do a reboot of Ghostbusters, and there are people who are expressing concern over it, because for me, Ghostbusters is iconic. Even the second one, as far as sequels go, isn't bad, and I enjoy it, and in some ways I enjoy some of that a little bit more than parts of the first one, but some people are concerned that an iconic 80s film is going to be remade, and the usual suspects are squawking that the reason people don't like it is because of sexism, because the leads are going to be played by women. And
I just think it's a stupid gimmick. Like, if you need to rely on something like that to try and get people to go into the movie, what does that say about your movie? Like, hey, let's do it with 4 women. Like, that's your original thought. That's what you came up with. Why don't you just make another franchise with 4 women? Like, why would you need to piggyback on an older franchise when you could come up with something new that would be cool?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've always talked about doing a third film.
Oh, well, Dan Aykroyd's been trying to get that made for decades, and
Yeah.
and nobody really wanted to do it, so they kind of strung him along. Like, Bill Murray would be in, and then he'd be out, and then he'd be in, and then he'd be out again. And Ramis would say that he was interested, but then they were working on a script, and then they would never really finish anything. And basically, the third movie turned into a video game. They made a video game for, I think it was the Xbox 360,
Yeah, I think that was right.
PS2, PS3-ish, and they got pretty much the whole original cast back for that. And the whole thing is you're supposed to be like an apprentice Ghostbuster. And I've seen some of the game. I haven't played it myself, but it looked like it came out pretty well, and they could have just left it at that, but no, now we got to do this.
No. And obviously we all know that, I believe it was early last year, Harold Ramis passed away, so
Yep.
I wonder if that kind of made more urgency to do the project, because he was gone, and I didn't realize until he was gone what a massive impact he had on films and all the projects that he had a hand in. And I don't think a lot of people did, unless you were really into following that genre that he worked so well into. But he was remarkably talented and a very, very funny guy and a very, very good director. And I was sad to see that he died of a relatively horrible disease. Not that any disease is good, but as diseases go, that what he had was pretty bad. And
yeah,
that was sad.
I figured once he died, that would have ended the Ghostbusters 3 talk permanently. But apparently, we're going to go ahead with it anyway. Which is kind of unfortunate, because I thought something good could come out of this. Okay, we'll let the franchise rest on its laurels and stay where it was. It went out on a decent note, even though a lot of people give the second movie a lot of crap. I think it's a pretty decent film, and it's a lot of fun. It has some eminently quotable lines, just like the first one did. So I don't know why we can't just leave it at that, or even leave it with the video game, which is supposedly pretty good, like I said. But now we have to have the 4 amigos here.
Yeah, and it does
or
it seem
amigas,
like
I should say.
amigas for the correct terminology. Does it seem like Hollywood is just running out of ideas?
Well,
So
believe it or
me,
not,
sometimes it does.
years ago.
believe it
Okay.
or not, Hollywood has always done this. Like, even from its inception, most of the movies that even across the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s were either adaptations of books or they were remakes of other movies. So people think that this is a new phenomenon, that Hollywood just suddenly ran out of ideas and doesn't know how to make new movies. They've never really known how to make new movies. The new movies...
people forget that Ben-Hur was the one starring Charlton Heston, was a redoing of a silent film from like 28, 29.
Yeah, and I mean, most of the movies that we all love, if they're not a direct adaptation of a book or something like that, they're usually heavily influenced by some book or something else. So you'll look at it and it's like, well, actually, this script was based on this book, and then they just kind of tweaked it and added this, and then there was some improvisation, and suddenly you have a whole new thing. But it's not really a whole new thing, you know?
A whole new thing. Yeah, it's kind of a rehash of other things that have been done or pulling on other things, and I'm fine with adaptations if they are done well. Off the top of my head, the Hunger Games series, I've read the books and seen all of the films, and they're fairly strong adaptations. I have an issue when they take a book and completely change the book in the movie in a way that doesn't make sense to adapting it to film. I'm going to get all chicklet for you for a minute, but one of my favorite books is Where the Heart Is, and the book is great. It has a great voice, a great tone, it tells a great story, and the movie that they adapted with it, with Natalie Portman and now I'm just blanking on names tonight. Judd,
Judd Hirsch?
Judd
not Nelson?
Not Winona Judd, the daughter. Ashley Judd. There we go.
And Judd.
Ashley Judd.
Okay, gotcha.
Judd was just a piece of garbage. They changed things that they didn't have to change. They added plot lines they didn't have to add. And I went, how did you get to this film from that book? And what the hell were you smoking when you did it? And that, if I had to pick one adaptation that I despise with every fiber of my being, it's that one. But because they took a great book and they turned it into Hollywood schlock, when it could have been a good movie, and it could have been so much better than the bubblegum bull that they gave us. So,
yeah, for me, it's always about if you're going to change something, it needs to be for a good reason, or a reason that at least makes sense in the context of trying to transfer something to film. If you're just changing things to change things, I get really irritated about that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, the director really wanted this thing in there, and so we put it in. I'm like, well, is that in the book? No. Did we cut something else for that? Yes. That's frustrating. It's kind of like the one that comes to mind is the Lord of the Rings Two Towers, how they inserted all that romance stuff with Aragorn that wasn't really in the book, and then they complained they didn't have enough time to show stuff that was in the book.
Was in the book. Yeah, well, and then you'll notice that Dave is not with us this evening. He was going to take a night off. He's got some stuff that he's got to attend to, and I'm glad he is, because the second you mentioned Lord of the Rings, he would have started twitching, and we would have.
we alluded to that one time.
Yes, the rest of the show would have been him ranting and raving about how Peter Jackson should be savaged by orcs for what he did to the Lord of the Rings series. So
see, I liked the first one. When I watched the first one in the theater, I was blown away by how good I thought the adaptation was, like how true it was to the book.
Yeah, I
It
knew
cut
where,
out, like,
where I stopped reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like there were parts that were cut out, like Tom Bombadil, but I'm like, that really didn't matter to the story. And it was fine to let it go, and I didn't miss it when I watched the movie. It didn't bother me at all. I knew where it was, and I knew they didn't do it, and I was like, oh, you know what, it's cool. But when they got to the Two Towers, and then later, especially with the Return of the King, how things just sort of went awry, I got so frustrated with those movies. The last one I can't watch because of the whole tone of the way everything looks. Because, for example, Shelob's Cave is the place where all other lights go out, and there are freaking skylights. That I can't get past that. I'm like, the whole point was that it was pitch freaking black. They couldn't see anything, and they had Galadriel's light so that they could see with that. And when that fell down and they dropped it, they couldn't see anything. And Sting was glowing, so that's how they knew the orcs were coming. And instead, we've got like skylights that don't make any sense at all. They're in the middle of a mountain. It's supposed to be a cave through a mountain. Where are these skylights coming from that you can see? How is this mountain even being held up if there's all these holes in it?
Well,
so there was
it's like
that.
with Children of Men, right? The Children of Men, the P.D. James books, that they made a movie out of. And I never saw the movie because I had no desire to. But I have read the book, and my middle sister was like, there's one character in there that's supposed to be dead before the film even before they even exist, but they're alive in it, and it doesn't make any sense. And, you know, I mean, she basically just went, she went ballistic over it. That's how Dave would be. And I didn't read Lord of the Rings, the books, before I saw the first film. And that first film came out, I was a freshman in college, I think. I was in college because I wasn't married and I didn't have kids, because I'm not even going to say on air how many times I went and saw Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring at the Budget Cinema, because it's embarrassing. But it
had to be early 2000s, because I remember it came out the month after Star Trek Nemesis, I think. One of them did, because everybody said that film bombed because it was terrible, and it wasn't a great film by any means, but the main reason it bombed is like the week after was one of the Lord of the Rings movies, and everybody who would have gone to see Star Trek again, everybody would have gone to see Star Trek again would go see that movie instead, and they did.
So it was the summer and fall of 2001. I was a freshman in college. I just graduated from high school. Because I remember the car I had, and I went and saw it so many times because I just was mesmerized by it.
I was a sophomore by then.
Yeah, so I can get that. And Brian in the chat room mentions another adaptation, The Princess Bride. The book was much more somber. And, but Brian, are you talking about the book that the film was based on, or the Princess Bride, like the original work, which was... I haven't read it, but my understanding is it's rather bizarre. Or are you talking about the book that the film was based on, with the grandfather reading it to his grandson? We'll wait for him to respond. But that's one of their... I have read both of those. And I've seen The Princess Bride, and I love The Princess Bride. And it's one of my favorite movies. It's probably one of the most quotable movies in the history of cinema. And And
What
Definitely
about
up there.
ROUS? Rodents of unusual size?
Just-
Oh, I don't think they exist.